Alright, so when walking on the pine crest shake, we want to stay to the bottom part of the panel. We want to stay out of the middle and stay away from walking on the side laps. So you can see just walking across like this, staying out of the middle of the panel, and you won't dent it. Alright, when it comes to a Batten system, we have some different options. First, you can go ahead and take just a 2x2, put that right to the decking. We have a counter batten bat system where you take a 1x4 and put it on your rafter, and then put the 2x2 on top here. Or the option we'll show here today is going to be our elevated batten system. So it's a 2x2 with a puck located every foot. We're going to go ahead and fasten down into that puck with a fastener, a ring shank nail, or exterior grade screw long enough to penetrate the structure 1 inch minimum. All three, the following steps are going to be the same. The front batten, we will need our top front nose even with my fascia. So we can take a straight edge and make sure that's going to stay nice and straight. Now, the second batten, we're going to chalk the line. So we need a 1/2 inch overhang. So Pacific tile, it's a 14.5 inch exposure. So we're going to go ahead and chalk our line approximately 14 inches. You can go ahead and adjust that accordingly. So 14 inches is what we're going to be looking for. Chalk that line. Make sure you come into the middle. After I'm done chalking that line, measure that. Make sure that panel is going to fit in the middle. Make sure chalk line hasn't waved on us at all. And then we're going to go ahead and just take that second row batten, and we're going to bring it down where the front nose is right on our chalk line. And then we'll fasten in every puck. Then we're going to come back with our batten spacers. They come in a set of 2. And we're going to go ahead and hook that batten just like that. And bring that next batten down. And go ahead and fasten that in each puck. Then we'll just go ahead and work up the roof, feeding up to the ridge. When we're placing our valley battens, we're going to use the 6 inch wide end of our batten spacer. We'll center that in the valley and just bring those battens together, which will keep it centered. When we're using our EBS, we're going to fasten with a ring shank nail or exterior grade screw down through the pucks, every puck, and they're located every foot. So once we get that centered, then we can go ahead and start fastening our valley battens. Alright, when we're doing our hip battens, we're going to take, if we're using our EBS, we're going to take those pucks and just move them to the inside so they face each other. And then we want to center these over our hip line because our caps are going to fit in over these, so we want these straight. So we want from the outside to outside, we want 5 inches, and then we want them centered over our hip. And then we'll go ahead and take that ring shank nail or exterior grade screw, and we're going to fasten into every filled batten going up the hip. Alright, when we're dealing with our ridge battens, you can go a couple different ways. One way you can go is go ahead and do a stack on either side of your ridge. We'll do 2 high. And we're going to keep these from outside to outside 5 inches apart because our cap's going to be fitting over the top. And then we'll just fold our panel up on each side. So that would be sitting on your ridge here. The other option is the traditional stack, just with 2x2s. So 1, 2, maybe 3, depending on pitch. It's always going to change depending on pitch and construction of the project. But I can just do a traditional stack where I put 1 2x2 down, fasten to the rafters. Put the next one on top, fasten to that one, and if I need a third, add accordingly. And then what we're showing here is the third option is going to be our ridge riser brackets. So you can see just fastening 1 2x2 into the ridge riser brackets and then fasten down into the deck. Maximum we're going to have is 24 inches apart, and then you can see where you can just bend this according to whatever height I need depending on the pitch. Now when you get to the top with your short courses, depending on how big the short course is, you might have to add a batten to support that panel. So as you can see here, we have a support batten here to support that small short course that we'll have up the ridge. All right, when we're doing our layout on our Pinecrest shake, we want to find our hip points, or locating points. So locating points are going to be one on either end on those doubles. That locating point is going to go ahead and take one of my ends of my panel. That way all my water channels line up. So you can see I can come over on this side, or I can bring an end over to this locating point as well, and those channels will line up. So once we lay that down, you can see it'll fit nice and tight along the bottom edge. And then we can continue going up the roof, either finding our locating points on either end. Once again, on either end, we can go ahead and put those locating points. When laying out the Pinecrest shake on battens, we can actually work from the top down. So we'll go ahead and get our first full row. We'll go ahead and tack that. Our next panel on, tack that one on as well. And then we can start working our way down. Make sure to find our predetermined stagger. Place that panel underneath. Then we can tack that in. And come back at our next row down. Find that predetermined stagger once again. And tack that one in so it doesn't move on you. Alright, as far as fastening the Pinecrest shake on battens, 4 is the magic number for our standard install. We do have a high wind application as well. And consult the manual if you need that one. But they're going to go on the front nose, so you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th one will be shared, so 4 in the front nose is what we need per full panel. So I've marked them in white caulk here. You can see the bottom row, we're going to have that 1/2 inch overhang, so about 2 inches up. We're going to go ahead and put the fastener down through the top. So you can see I got 1, 2, 3, and you can see just going down through the top into that 2x2. Now the bottom row, anytime I go through the top on the bottom row, I will need to take my caulking and caulk those fasteners. And then come back with your granules from your touch-up kit and put them into that caulking. Now the rest of the rows, you can see they're going to go through the front nose. So I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. You can see we're just going to go into that angle to get into that 2x2 batten underneath. Just like so. And then you can see the next panel comes over the top, and that 5th one is shared. Alright, our eave batten. When we place this, we're going to go straight with our eave, and we want to make sure the top edge of our 2x2 is even with our fascia. So you can use a straight edge like your batten spacer. Make sure that's straight, and then fasten in every puck with that ring shank nail or exterior grade screws. And then we'll come back with our 3.5 inch or 5 inch fascia. We'll go ahead and place that right on top of that batten, and we'll fasten that every 16 inches or whatever your code calls for. Alright, we're ready to place our rake batten. We're going to go ahead and just put it right on top of our filled battens. So filled battens are going to go to my rake edge, and I'll go ahead and put my rake batten on there. If I'm using EBS, just go ahead and rotate that so the puck's towards the outside. Then you can kind of move this to where you want depending on what angle you like your cap, so go ahead and play with it. Today we're going to show 3 inches from my rake edge to the inside. So that 3 inches, go ahead and mark that, keep that nice and straight because that's what our caps are going to. And we'll fasten in each fill batten. Now, sometimes when we built this up, we might have an old paint line or an old metal line where if we bring our cap down, maybe it won't reach that because we built it up with our batten system. So if you need to, you can go ahead and take our 3.5 inch fascia and put that along your rake. Fasten that to the batten. And now, when I bring my cap over, you can see if there's that old paint line or anything like that. It just gives me a little extra to cover everything up. After we get our filled panels down, we're going to go ahead and start measuring our rake. So what we'll do is we're going to find a profile in that shake to measure from. We don't want to measure from the edge. So we'll measure into our 2x2 minus a 1/4 inch from that measurement. And once we get that measurement, write it down. Come back up, measure this one, write it down. We'll continue measuring all the way to the ridge, writing those down in order, so that way we keep our panels in order once we're done cutting and bending them from the eave to the ridge. After we get our measurements for our rake off the roof, we're going to go ahead and find that same profile that we measured from on the roof. And then we'll go ahead, mark that, that'll be our bend line. Then we can bring our 2x2, mark our cut line. Take it to the cutter. And then we'll go ahead and fold up. Then once we get our pile done, it'll all be in order. We'll hand that up to the roof, ready for installation. Bring it up and we can start installing. Go ahead and tack that top one. It stays in place. Then I can just take them off my pile in order. Work my way down. Then we can come back and fasten those panels. Alright, so when we get into our 3.5 inch fascia into our valley, we'll do the following steps. So you can see here, I'm just going to notch out my 3.5 inch fascia, put a fold on the inside corner, and find out where my batten is, and where my valley is going to lay down. And then we'll go ahead and put that one just like so. Install that one. And the other side is going to be very similar. We're going to come in, we're going to do a straight edge off the side here, but do our fold around our batten and down to our valley. Now we'll be ready to put our trough valley in since we've notched that out, flattened it out. Make sure I have my valleys at least 3/4 inch past my drip edge. We're ready to go ahead and panel it. Alright, once we get our filled panels in, we'll come back and start measuring our valley panels. So we're going to find a profile in the shape. We don't want to measure from the edge of the profile. And we'll have 2 measurements. We're going to show an open valley here. You can do closed as well. We're just going to measure to that bend. And we'll have 2 measurements. We'll have a bottom measurement and a top measurement. And then we'll go ahead and write those down. And then continue measuring all the way up to the ridge, writing down our measurements in order from eave to ridge. Alright, once I get my measurements that are in order, I'm going to bring them down and cut and bend them. So once again, we're going to find that same profile that I measured from on the roof. And then we're going to go ahead and do our marks. You want to do your marks at the bend marks and not the edges. So then when we're dealing with a batten system, it's going to be roughly 1.5 inches on the bend. So now I'm going to have a bend line and a cut line. Take it over to your cutter. And we'll take it to our bender, fold it down since it's a valley piece. And then once we do the entire measurements, we'll have them in a pile in order, and we'll hand them up and install. Alright, so once we get our valley pieces cut and bent, we'll have them in a pile in order, and we can go ahead and start installing them. Once our panels are in, we can go ahead and start fastening. Just make sure that we don't put any fasteners into the valley pan. Keep everything out of the valley. And go ahead and continue all the way to the top of the valley. Alright, once we get our filled panels on, we'll come back and measure our hips. So we're going to measure from that profile once again, not the edge, but the profile. And each panel will have two measurements. So we're going to measure into our 2x2, and that will be our bend mark. Go ahead and measure the bottom and the top, minus a 1/4 inch so we don't fight it. Once I get those measurements, write them down. Then we'll continue measuring up to the top of the roof and writing those down in order as we go. So once we get our list from the roof on our hips, go ahead and find that same profile that we measured from. Measure at the bends. Go ahead and mark those. Come back. We'll do our cut line and our bend line. Bring it over to the cutter. And then we'll bring it over to the bender and fold up since it's in it. Then once we get our pile all cut and bent, we'll go ahead and hand that up to the roof, ready for installation. Alright, so once we get our panels all cut and bent on our hip, we'll go ahead and bring our pile up, and we can go ahead and start installing these panels. We'll start from the top down. We'll go ahead and put this one in, tack the top so it doesn't move on us. And then we can start installing our panels as we come down. And then once we get our panels in, we can go ahead and start fastening those as normal. To the top of the roof. Alright, after we get our filled panels on, we're going to go ahead and measure our top row. We're going to measure from the shelf here to the 2x2. Make sure we minus a 1/4 inch to ensure a good fit. So once I get all my measurements, we're going to go ahead and mark our panels. And we have to have a 2-inch fold up. So we're going to mark our bend line and our cut line like we've been doing. Then we're going to go ahead and bend this first on the back of the bender. And then we'll go ahead and cut this. Alright, so once we get all of our ridge pieces cut and bent, remember we're going to have a 2-inch fold up here. going to want to go ahead and fasten one side down, and then come back to the other side. And then we'll push down the middle and fasten that one. And then we'll put fasteners into our 2x2 header. With our shake cap and our bend up, we'll do the following steps. So first we're going to cut our decking back so we get airflow from the attic so we can vent it. But then we're going to come back with our batten buildup. So we can do a traditional buildup of 2x2s, one on top of each other, or we can come back with our ridge riser brackets. It's one 2x2 and then bend these according to the height that we need. Now the height is very important when I'm building these up because we need to have our cap a 1/2 inch off of our panels so we can get that airflow going. So make sure that we build this up correctly, and that will change with pitches of roof. After that, we go ahead and take our unified steel ridge vent and we place that on our 2x2s just like so. Then we're going to come back with our panel. We're going to fold it up 2 inches and then we'll install these. The front nose we're going to install like normal. And the back shelf, we're going to go ahead and fasten these into our 2x2. We need to make sure we don't over tighten these because we don't want to block the airflow with our venting. We're going to do both sides of this. And then we're going to come back with our cap, and our cap will sit right on that 2x2 that we've adjusted to the right height to make sure that we're a 1/2 inch off of our panel. And then we'll fasten these into that 2x2. Alright, so once we get our rake panels in, we're ready to go ahead and put our cap on. So as long as I did my 3 inches in with my 2x2, I can go ahead and take my shake cap, put a 90-degree bend on the roof side of that cap. Now once we do that one, we're going to go ahead and take our 6-inch end disc, and then we're going to field modify that into a triangle. And that's going to fit on our first cap. So take your 3/4 inch stitch screws, go ahead and fasten that into that cap, and then it's going to be ready to go onto the rake. So then our fasteners on the top are going to go into the 2x2. So you can see here, I'm just going to go right through the top into that 2x2. Then I'm go ahead and take my next cap right on top here once again. Get our fastener through the top once again. And then go ahead and take the rest of my caps and fasten those as we're going up the rake. Now on the fascia board, each cap is going to need a fastener as well. Just like so. Now the fasteners down through the top, just like our bottom row, we're going to have to go ahead and take our caulking, caulk those, and then take my granules and go ahead and put that on all my top screws going up the rake. So when the rake comes to a ridge intersection, we're going to go ahead and take our regular caps and we'll mark these accordingly and get the following cuts. So first one, we're going to find our back flange where it hits my ridge. Go ahead and extend this past. It's going to fit just like so. My next cap, I'm going to go ahead and take that back flange again, notch that one, and then find my miter to match my miter line of my fascia boards. And then we'll go ahead and fasten as normal. Getting fasteners in the top. and also on the fascia board. Then my first ridge cap is going to be notched. Once again, we'll find where that cap comes, notch that one, and you can see that'll fit right over the top, lining up with my miter. And then when I come off my ridge, caps are going to sit right on top. You can see my 2x2 and my panel fill bent up. The 2x2 is where my fasteners are going to go into. So you can see, once I get this down nice and tight, go ahead and fasten those into that 2x2, one on either side. And then we go ahead and just place those and fasten as normal, going the rest of the way on the ridge. Alright, so once we get all our hip panels on, we'll be ready to do our cap. So as long as our 2x2s are centered, our cap will stay nice and straight. So when we're starting with our starter piece, we're going to take one of our 6-inch end discs, and once again I can field modify that. And you can see here, we just go ahead and find my drip edge and go ahead and cut that out so this fits back nice and tight. So once we get there, make sure that's sitting nice and tight. Then our fasteners are going to be one on either side. And then we'll go ahead and just overlap our next one, fitting over our panels in 2x2, and then once again just fasteners on either side. And then we'll go ahead and just keep on going up our hip, fastening it. Alright, so when we're doing a hip to a ridge intersection on our shake bend up, we're going to go ahead and find our measurement to that 2x2 and notch that one, put a fold in this cap, place that against that 2x2 and then fasten on either side. Then we'll take our caulking, go ahead and put caulking down that bend, and then we're going to find our miter, notch that out on the next cap, and we'll place that down into that caulking and fasten on either side. Then we'll take our first ridge piece, we're going to notch where it runs into my caps on either side, and then we can go ahead and mark where that bend is on the rate or hip cap, and then we'll go ahead, caulk down that one, and place this guy into that caulking and fasten that one on either side. Then we can go ahead and start doing our ridge cap, putting fasteners on either side into my 2x2. Continue that across. Alright, when we're dealing with the chimney, once we get our filled panels around the chimney, we'll come and do all our measuring. So the bottom panel, we're going to find our short course here. I'm going to fold up a minimum of 2 inches. I can do more, but a minimum of 2 inches. Then I'm going to find my corner on either side and wrap that corner and flatten out that panel. You can see I might have to add a 2x2 here just to brace the panel. Then we'll go ahead and install that one, have that folded on either side. And we'll come back, fasten that as normal. Getting fasteners in the front, and then we'll also get some here in the back into the chimney or skylight. And then we're going to come back with our second panel. We're going to fold these panels up. So I'm going to fold up a minimum of 2 inches, And once again, I'm going to find my corner and wrap that corner. Now we want to take our caulking, go ahead and caulk that whole corner, just like so. And then we're going to go ahead and place that panel, and you can see now that corner is double wrapped. And we'll go ahead and fasten that one. Then we'll continue with our minimum of 2-inch fold up, going to the side wall of that chimney or skylight, placing fasteners in the front nose. Then when we get to the back of the chimney, we're going to find that corner once again, and we're going to go ahead and wrap that and let the 2-inch minimum off the back side. And then go ahead and install that as normal. Alright, so once we get our panels all folded up on all our sides, we're going to come back and we're going to counter flash it. Now we have a 3.5 inch or a 5-inch facer that you can use right over the top, or we have our Z-bar, just a stone coated surface mount that will go over the top of the head wall and side wall. Either one will work. So once we get our panels on, we're going to go ahead and find our corners and wrap our corners on our bottom piece here. Place that. As you can see, my corners will be wrapped. And then I can come back with the same piece on my side wall as well to cover up those bends. We'll fold on the front nose and the back nose here. And we'll go ahead and place that and fasten that into the side wall. Once we get both sides done to that, we're going to go ahead and take our chimney saddle pan. So we can just make this out of our flat stock. As you can see, I got my back shelf just like the back of our panel, and then we measure our space between our batten and our skylight or chimney, and then fold back up the skylight or chimney however much I need. We're also going to incorporate our expandable foam on the back here, since it's a flat surface instead of the profile like the panel is. Then we're going to go take our caulking, go ahead and caulk our back corner. Then we're going to set this down into that caulking. And make sure we're extending a good 3 or 4 inches past our corner to get that moisture away from the corner. And then we can go ahead and fasten. And then when we're all said and done, we can go ahead and come back and do our caulking along our side wall and our head wall. And if it is exposed, we can come back with our granules and put that into that caulking to dress it up. All right, if we're going to use an easy vet, we're going to cut our hole approximately 29 inches by 5 inches. We recommend putting a screen over the top so we don't get insects into the attic. And then it's just going to install just like a panel. And we'll fasten in that front nose. Get it fastened, we're going to go ahead and grab our end seal, our expandable foam. We're going to go ahead and place it on that flat back where that meets the panel. And then we'll go ahead and bring our next panel over the top. Alright, so when we're doing a pipe on our shake, we can do this the sandwich method. So what you're going to do is you're going to first find your hole where your pipe is. Go ahead and cut around that pipe. Then take our caulking. Go ahead and put caulking around that pipe. Then bring my pipe jack over the top into that caulking. Then we can come back with either a full panel or a partial panel as long as it covers my pipe jack. And then we're going to go ahead and cut that out, and we're going to sandwich the pipe jack into that panel. Just like so. Then we'll come back and just fasten the panels as normal. Then we'll go ahead and caulk around that pipe. And then use our touch-up kit to go ahead and put the sprinkles on that caulking. And then you can finish it off with our pipe sleeve, just like so. We're doing a split course pipe with a Batten system. We'll do the following steps. So we're just using our pipe jack here. I'm going to go ahead and notch out my bottom panel to that pipe, place this, see where it is. Anything behind the coursing, we're going to make a water stop, so just bend it over on itself so no water can get back underneath. And then depending on where the pipe lies, you might have to use another 2x2 just to brace the back of the pipe jack. And then we'll go ahead and take our caulking along the bottom and the edges here. Then we'll go ahead and place that pipe. Go ahead and fasten down into the caulking. You can see we've formed this pipe jack to fit down to the panel. Then we go ahead and bring our panel over the top, and we'll go ahead and fasten that as normal. We'll go ahead and bring our caulking, go ahead and caulk around that pipe. And any exposed caulking, we'll go ahead and use that granule to doctor it up and give it a little extra UV protection and put that in my caulking. When we come to a stepped eave, and it creates a short course, we'll do the following steps. So we always want to keep that short course down at our bottom eave line. So what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and batten this up, but instead of a 2x2 here, we're going to use a 1x4. So we'll have a 2x2 at the eave line, 2x2 up here, and then once we find out where that coursing is going to be, we're going to go ahead and take our panel underneath, flatten out that back edge with the mallet, and we'll go ahead and place that underneath, just like so. And then we'll go ahead and fasten that one as normal, going down through the top edge. And so then, once we know where our panel is going to overlap this panel, we'll come back with our M-Seal, our expandable foam. We're going to go ahead and throw that across that line. And once we have that expandable foam in there, we're going to go ahead and do our fasteners. We're going to go down through the top into that 1x4 that we put on. Just like so. Alright, when we do that short eave, when we're bringing our cap up from the short rake, go ahead and just bring those up as normal, fastening in the same spots. Then when we get to where it runs into the step fascia, we're going to go ahead and find that miter into the fascia there and notch that out. Find the 2x2 go ahead and notch that and flange that up so it can tuck underneath. Lift that panel up and bring that up nice and tight to your fascia and your 2x2. And then we're going to go ahead and notch our panel and flatten those out. And then we'll go ahead and fasten our cap as normal. Then before we fasten the panel, we'll want to come and bring some caulking underneath that one. Then go ahead and fasten your panel as normal. And just remember, once I get everything screwed off, anything down through the top, I need to caulk and chip. So I go ahead and take my caulking, caulk those screws. If I need to do any seams here, I can go ahead and caulk that. And I'll go ahead and bring my granules and throw that down into my caulking everywhere I caulk. Alright, so when we're doing a solar mount, there's a couple different choices when we're doing the battens. We have a fixed, so if I'm doing a counter batten system or just a regular 2x2, I'll just use that fixed batten one. If I'm using an EBS, since it is a little bit higher with the pucks, we'll need to go to an adjustable one that will sit over the top just like so. So how we do this, we're going to find our rafter, then we're going to pre-drill our holes, and then we're going to go ahead and caulk those holes, and then we'll set our mount over the top of the panel like so. And then we'll come back with the lag bolts that are included. Fasten those down into the pre-drilled holes and into the caulking. Then we'll go ahead and ready the panel over the top. And then go ahead and put fasteners in the front nose like normal. Alright, right into a dormer valley. We'll go ahead and bring our panels over, fold them up, flash it, put our drip edge on from our dormer. And then on this panel, we're going to go ahead and flatten this out where the valley exit is. Flatten that out. And then we can either come back with our expandable foam, put a layer of expandable foam on there, or we can come back with our caulking. Then we'll go ahead and bring our valley down. Replace that. Make sure it's extending at least 3/4 inch past my fascia here and past this last panel to get all the moisture out on top of the panels. And then we can come back and install our panels into our valley, just like so. And then we can go ahead and fasten those. For our touch-up, any screws down through the top, we'll go ahead and take our caulk gun and caulk those. And any other spots where we want to do some caulking and touch up some cuts, we can go ahead and caulk those. And then we'll come back with our granules from our touch-up kit. And you can see, we'll just go ahead and throw those on that caulking, protecting that caulking and dressing up the look.